Okay, we're live streaming and Dorona just joined. I'm moving her over now. Oh. Okay, she's in and we are live streaming.
Great, thank you, Janice. All right, good morning, everybody. This is the March 30th Cvta Fall-In Working Group meeting. We will start with roll call for attendance. Janice?
Sure. Town of Ashland, Miss Amos.
Here.
Chesterfield County, Miss Smith.
Here.
Thank you. Miss Walker.
Here.
Hanover County, Mr. Vadunez.
Here.
Henrico County, Chair Yor.
Here.
Miss Smidler. VDOT, Mr. Mann.
Here.
Mr. Ridlett.
Here.
Miss McAdory.
Here. Good morning.
Morning. Plan RBA, Mr. Parsons.
Here.
Ariel. Mr. Bushing.
Here.
And City of Richmond, Miss Clark.
Here.
Thank you. That concludes the roll call.
Great, thank you. Next item would be approval of the March 2nd, 2022 meeting minutes, which are included on page 3 of the agenda package. Actually, I'm sorry, I jumped ahead. Consideration of amendments to the meeting agenda. Chet, do we have any changes?
No amendments considered.
Got it. Thank you. So next would be the approval of the minutes. If everybody's had a chance to review, consider a motion.
So moved.
All right. Thank you, Dorana. Do we have a second?
Second, Barb.
Go ahead.
All right. I think Barb, you were first. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right. Motion carries. Next would be public comment. Do we have anybody registered to speak?
We do not.
Hearing none, moving to item 4, VDOT update. This will be you, Shane, or Mark, or Liz, or y'all can tag team.
Yeah, we'll tag team, Todd. I'll start off with the budget update. Really nothing to share as far as budget update. The House and Senate are still in negotiations. I believe the governor has called them back into session next week, but they've been very tight-lipped on what the negotiations are, so we're not privy to any information to share. So with that, I'll pass it off to Liz to go through design guidelines.
Thanks, Shane. Good morning, everybody. So the design guidelines, we're still cranking away. You should have gotten an invitation to the stakeholder meeting number 2, which is going to be on April 14th at 2 p.m. If you, for some reason, did not get an invitation, let me know, and I will make sure that you get on there. At that meeting, we're going to have we'll have some draft text. We'll have an outline of the whole document, the plan, and then we'll have some draft text from the introduction, best practices, and some of these existing conditions. We're still shooting for May. It's probably going to look more like the second week of May when we actually have a draft document, but we will have a third stakeholder meeting prior to finalizing everything, and you will have had a chance to review it before you make decisions. So we'll make sure that we get the final draft when it's time out to you guys in advance so that you can review it before our final stakeholder meeting. I also want to announce that we have, for the design build packages, we have scheduled our public location hearings, and there's going to be an ad going out on April 3rd, but just to give you guys a heads up, May 3rd, we're having 2 meetings. First is going to be May 3rd at Lewis Genter Botanical Gardens, and the second will be May 5th at the Hilton Garden Inn down in Colonial Heights. Same places we did the ATP study meetings, so there'll be some familiarity. There'll be, like I said, public notice and some brochures, and I will make sure you guys have all of that information. And that's it. Oh, actually, one more thing. For the public meetings, we do, if at all possible, it would be really good if locality representatives could be there. Like we're obviously going to answer questions, but just having that local presence And particularly for the localities where you'll be maintaining the trail, we think it would be a good idea if you guys could come. We think it'll be a pretty well-attended meeting, so it'll be a good event.
Hey, Liz,
And that is all.
can you just go ahead and, let all of us know about that at the TAC meeting on Friday? That way,
Oh, yeah,
at least,
sure.
we'll at least be able to give them more of a heads up too, which I know they'll
Sure.
definitely appreciate it.
No problem.
Right, continuing on with a couple of design build scenario updates as well. Based on the Cvta action recently, we are in the process of establishing UPCs for both the northern and southern segments. We will also be working on processing a transfer of some of the Cvta funds to cover the non-Cvta portions of the southern bundle. A couple of things that would be helpful as we continue working on advancing those to the northern and southern bundles that were approved by Cvta. The SPAs, we would ideally like to have them before the CTB at their June meeting. That gives us about a month to have them ready. Generally, the agenda items need to be available the end of the month prior to that scheduled CTB meeting. So if we were to have it on the June CTB calendar, we would need to have it by the end of April. So we've got about a month. Any help that we could get from Eric or you guys on having those put together, we're certainly willing to help work on that. The other thing that would be helpful, particularly for the location meetings in May, is a really good understanding of where we are exactly with the maintenance agreements between VDOT and any of the jurisdictions, and copies of any of those agreements that are available, even if it's only in a draft form at this point, will help us make sure that we have the graphics correct in terms of what we are presenting at those location public meetings. So with that, happy to answer any questions.
Barb, you have your hand raised.
So the SPA agreement, who is that between?
Cvta and VDOT for use of Cvta regional funding.
Yeah, okay. And then the maintenance agreements.
It would be between any jurisdiction that would be maintaining a part of the Fall Line Trail.
We may
So, for
need to talk
instance-
about VSU on that part, since a lot of it's on their property.
Ron, you're correct. And I'm working on setting up a coordination meeting and you'll be involved in that as well. with,
Yeah, reach
VSU
out with
and all.
Jane Harris. She's got the lead on that, and she's been the one that's been following this along and keeping their people up to date.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
What is important for the maintenance agreements right now is when we get a location approval, when we go through that process, we're seeking that for the sections that will be VDOT maintained. So we just want to make sure that we are very clear and transparent in that process, especially for those meetings the first week in May.
Okay, thanks.
Joe, you have your hand raised.
Yes, Mark, so clarify who is, how do we determine who's responsible? In other words, in Hanover, Hanover doesn't want to be responsible for maintenance. Is VDOT maintaining the Hanover section?
Our understanding is that in areas where we maintain the roadways, we would be maintaining the trail. In jurisdictions or areas where that is a question, and I'll just throw it out there, Henrico and the city of Richmond have maintenance responsibilities on parts of the system. And there have been some discussions with some jurisdictions that would indicate if you are adjacent to a VDOT maintained road in one of those localities that maintains some of the system, if it's adjacent to your system, you maintain it. If it's adjacent to VDOT system, maybe we maintain it. And again, we just want to make sure that whatever agreements are being ironed out relative to that we reflect that accordingly. For your benefit, Joe, to my knowledge, there's no indication that VDOT would not be maintaining the section within Hanover.
Right. Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
Chet, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I just wanted everybody to be aware that legal counsel is aware that these agreements need to be prepared, and it's kind of a daunting task. So I think that if there's any kind of a timeline that that the authority expects for them to be done. That'd be great to put that out there so we know what the deadline is going to be and how we need to approach that. I think there's also probably some merit in getting the group of lawyers, whatever we're going to call that, together to kind of work through this this framework, just like we did with the original SPA.
I guess I can jump in. Yeah, Chair, we would like to get on the June CTB agenda. We have to get these in front of CTB to get their approval. So that probably gives us about a month. Mark, does that sound about right?
That's correct. Yep.
So we have to get it to them for their work session and then the actual CTB meeting. So yeah, we probably have a month. Basically, we really can't really go to work until we get that agreement in place from our end. So.
Okay, thanks, Shane. That helps. If you can,
And
if someone can give me a date of like when the agenda goes out and when you need it before that, that'd be great.
I'll make sure we get you the full date. And at least from our side, I think since we've already hashed out the SPA language, I don't know that from our side, we're going to need to have a lot of legal input. We're just filling in the blanks at this point with project specific information. So from our side, at least it should be pretty quick.
Okay.
Doreen?
Yeah. Thanks, Mr. Chair. I just had a question. We talked about the June meeting, and this one's more, I guess, for Chet. There was like an email around talking about like a combined meeting. Have we got any feedback on that? Because I think there's a couple of things. One, it sounds like, a couple of business items that CVTA would have outside of a combined. One being like, I guess, nominations of the officers, and then now this particular item that VDOT's talking about. So I just wanted to bring that up, and maybe we could get some clarification on that, because I know myself didn't receive the email directly, but it was said that it was sent out to staff. So we're just trying to make sure we're aligning if we're going to have a separate June meeting, or if some of these actions will occur in May.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Joanna. For everybody's information, what we're talking about is something that the authority, as well as the TPO and Plan RBA boards, have talked about, is having a joint meeting in June. The first week, I think we're looking at the second or third, which would fall in line with the normal TPO or Plan RBA meeting, where it would be more of a planning ahead kind of meeting where all three boards could be in the same room and talk about shared goals and vision and what the work programs are going to be. So yes, we are trying to work with the chairs to understand any other business that might need to be taken care of. In terms of the nominating committee, I think Ms. Heater talked with Mr. Thornton after the last CVTA meeting about setting up the nominating committee and putting those wheels in motion. So we are aware that there might be business items, but if there is anything particular that this group or TAC or finance needs to highlight, please let me know so that we can figure out alternatives in case the June meeting is more symbolic and vision focused than business oriented.
Shane?
I think we can get it taken care of other ways, but certainly want to be aware of any major issues.
Shane, go ahead.
Just to clarify, Dorona, I was talking about going to the CTB with this agreement.
Oh,
I
sorry.
think the authority approved, if I understand, entering into an agreement with VDOT already. So I don't think it has to go back to the full CVTA authority for these projects.
Thanks, Shane. Yeah, it was, so
No
you said
problem.
CTB June meeting.
Yeah, it gets confusing with all the acronyms. Sorry.
Yeah, I think I was just hearing what I wanted to hear. Thank you. Mr. Chair, I do have one more question. And I'm not sure if it's on the item 6, but just in regard to the process for how, like what agreements or what needs to be in place for the city of Richmond's operational analysis and so forth that we'll be administering?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we can go ahead and cover that now. So, I guess maybe we should back up briefly and kind of talk about the actions, the 4 items that were approved at the full authority meeting on last Friday. So we kind of hit on the I guess the first 2, and that was for the VDOT build packages 1 and 2, and the need to take that to the CTB in June. But the 3rd item that was approved at the Cvta was the allocation of funds for conducting the preliminary impact and operational analysis in the city. So the exact amount was not approved and for any of those items at the Cvta. So I guess there's still flexibility within those numbers. But I know, Dorena, you were working on getting a cost estimate for those components. So did you want to touch on that?
Yeah, and Liz ended up sending me an email. So Shane and Liz, I thought at the end of the meeting, we talked about combining the 2 scopes, but I guess in any case, if the understanding is that they can work simultaneously, or then they can remain separate. So the 2 scopes that I sent Chet and Todd, those are the quotes that we got from the consultants, in which we probably would use our own call with that quote. So I would say that those would be our final quotes, based on if it's understood that they'll happen concurrently and won't be combined. Based on the email that Liz told me. Yes, ma'am.
You're correct. Initially, we said it would be good to combine them. You could. It's up to you guys how you want to administer it. You obviously can't complete your 30% design without those analyses. If you wanted to combine them, that's what I was trying to say in my email. Rather than just simplistically adding the 2 totals, you could maybe take off about 5 to 8% for the project administration that would overlap. Other than that, the quotes are going to remain the same, because the work, the tasks are separate, but you would do it under the same contract if you wanted to do that way. Does that clarify?
Yeah, thank you.
So question, I guess this is maybe for Chet on this item. Since this will be allocation of Cvta regional funds directly to the city, that will need to go through an agreement, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
All right. And we don't have the agreement in place between the localities and the Cvta for regional funds at this point, if I recall correctly.
Yes, I think that's right.
So what do we need to do to pick back up on that effort and get that in place? Because, and I guess city will be first on this effort, but for all the allocation of the other regional funds that we're moving towards, I guess all the localities will need those, or most localities will need those fairly soon.
Yeah, and I guess I assume that those agreements would be part of the package, just like we just talked about with VDOT and the localities. When we're distributing fall-on funds or regional plan funds, I would hope that they could all be developed concurrently. But yeah, I mean, if the city needs to be first, that's a great directive.
I'll defer to the group, but I mean, I think probably it's good for everybody to start working on it. It will probably take a bit of time since it's going to involve coordination between the attorneys for each locality and for Eric, I'm assuming. We may need to talk about that further at the next TAC meeting as well.
And Mr. Chair,
Yes, Dorena.
I mean, I think we do have that memorandum of agreement between the CVTA and the localities. And it does address both the 50% and the 35% regional. You know, we got that signed when we were getting the local distributions.
Is that the SPA?
No, it's not the SBA. It's memorandum of agreement between the CVTA and, you know, the city of Richmond regarding distribution and use of funds under chapter 1235 of the 2020 Virginia Acts of Assembly. And specifically, it talks about the 15%, I'm sorry, the 35%, talks about project-based, case-by-case reimbursement. So it seems like we may have something in place already.
Eric, Chet put in the chat, he'd like to bring in legal counsel. I don't know if Eric's available for this meeting or if we need to do a follow-up in email clarification, Chet, after you talk to Eric.
Yes, if that's okay with everybody, I think follow-up is probably the best avenue right now.
Okay. I'm good on that. Did you have anything else to cover on the city effort, Dorana?
Let's see. No, I think that so we're going to be looking at, as part of the process, as we look at kind of those segments of connectivity that was also approved by the full body CVT authority. So we're kind of looking at some of those areas that are more or less low-hanging fruit in the city. And so we'll be kind of doing that in order to bring that to the table when this group talks about those more in depth.
Right. And for the benefit of the group, Chet also put into the chat box the actions that were approved at CBT last Friday. So the last item on there kind of, I guess, leads into item 5 on our agenda, and that's the advancing the trail sections, and specifically item 4 that was in the CVTA action, direct the Fall Line Trail Working Group and the CVTA TAC to develop a schedule and spending plan for the remaining segments of the trail to include recommendations for funding options to secure the needed balance to fund the complete trail. So, Cheto, if you wanted to elaborate on that at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we need to probably start that discussion here about the best mechanism to start framing that and how we would like to. I mean, I think that it should originate from this group, specific to the Fall Line, and then figure out how it feeds into, you know, regional applications, smart scale, next steps down the line, the budget, all those things. I think there's a lot of moving parts.
There are, and I see it as kind of an iterative process because, I mean, different sections, to your point, have different funding applications in various pots at this point. So there's a lot of unknowns on future funding. I can speak to the Henrico sections. I mean, we have several, I guess, pending applications that appear that they're going to get, one's going to get funded through TA, others are already funded, others where we have design and part of right-of-way funded, but not construction. So it'll, on our end, it'll probably be several months before we have a better picture on what the amounts needed for the various sections are and what the schedules look like. We're getting close, I think. So I don't know where everybody else is on any of their sections.
Mr. Chair, I guess looking at the immediate next few weeks, we should know in about a month's time any sections that are going to receive regional funds, we'll know pre-apps for smart scale. Having some of those things in front of us may be helpful to start thinking about next steps. I guess it's a question of what's the urgency of this group and how quickly do we need to formulate an approach.
I'll defer to others. I don't know that there's a huge urgency for our section. I know, the sections that VDOT's packaging together, it's going to the CTB in June, as we spoke to. So, Shane, I guess probably by end of this calendar year, beginning of next calendar year, you'll have those packages out on the street for either design build or design bid build.
Yeah, that's the plan, Todd. We're going to try to, for sure, push one of them out before the end of this calendar year. We're attempting to do two, but that may not happen, but we'll definitely have one out and the second one will be close behind.
Right. And are y'all comfortable with the limits of those two packages on start and end points?
Yes, I think we're in good shape on those. Yep.
And then Dorena, for the city sections, I don't know until you go through your full process for the operational analysis and preliminary estimates. I guess you don't really have good numbers or schedules at this point, so not sure how long that process will take, but that may take some time.
Yeah, once we, I think once we assign the task, we will be able to get a project timeline for those tasks that I can bring back to the group.
Okay.
Particular to the segments that they're, analyzing.
Got it. So I guess the takeaway is, I guess everybody will be working on a different schedule and time frame, and as we get information together, we'll bring it through this group and then feed it through TAC. So it sounds like it'll be over a period of months. All right. Anybody have any other items on that particular agenda item? All right, seeing none, that moves us to item 6 in the agenda, locality updates on jurisdictional fall line trail projects. Anybody have any updates for the group beyond what we've talked about? Nobody's volunteering. I'm going to pick on Ron if you want to talk about the federal earmark funding.
Yes, we were successful in getting the $2 million earmark from Senators Warner and Kane. Very thankful. He saw the announcement in the Times Dispatch, and of course, you've all heard about that. And so we're pretty excited down here about getting an earmark for that section of the Fall Line Trail. And just to let you know, Liz, when I told Jane about this, she was extremely excited about the earmark coming down. So we're definitely looking forward to moving forward with hopefully the whole project. Most of it is in Tri-Cities, all the way up to Brander's Bridge Road, this section of the trail. So for that particular project, there's a lot of excitement down here for that. I was talking with Mayor Parham yesterday, and he's pretty excited too.
So how long of a section will that cover, Ron?
The section, it's a little over a mile even. I don't think it is. It's not very long, but it's very critical because it crosses the Appomattox River and goes to Virginia State, starting at Patton Park. We do have a smart scale pre-application we're submitting for a trailhead that will serve both the Fall Line Trail and the ART, the Appomattox River Trail, on University Boulevard, sometimes called Fleet Street. It's in Patton Park itself too, so that will help give a good boost to the trail as it gets going.
And does the northern limit of this project tie into the first of the two design packages that VDOT's administering?
Is that a question to me or a question to VDOT?
Whoever knows the answer. I'm looking at Shane.
I'm looking at Liz. You can't see
What?
it, but I'm looking at her.
What was the, can you repeat the question? Sorry, Todd.
So the earmark funding that Tri-Cities got for that section, is that gonna connect directly to the southern piece of the design package one that VDOT's gonna be putting out? So that we'll have a
That's my
complete-
understanding. Yeah.
That was our hope.
That's my understanding as well, Liz. Yep.
Right.
Okay. Very good. Barb?
Yeah, I was thinking that $2 million would roll into that southern section.
Same
Mark,
here.
that was
know.
our understanding as well.
Yeah, which is kind of good because we have two other little dink sections in that funded with federal money.
Yep.
We were trying to non-federalize this whole section. But now that we've got this $2 million, we can roll that other federal money into that same section and just have
Okay.
it be a federal project.
Yeah, because there's CMAC and TAP along the section too.
Okay, yeah, I guess that's where I was confused. I thought that we were trying to keep that as state only, state and local money, but so you'll need to federalize that entire.
Well, you know, I guess VDOT can look at that. Maybe there's a way to clump up the two little dinky projects and get a $2 million and break the whole southern section into two pieces, one federal, one not. I don't know.
I think per our last discussion, we have an internal meeting weekly on this. I think that we initially, you're correct. We did say we were going to try to defederalize it, but it does make more sense. And Mark, you can step in if I misstate, but it does make more sense to go ahead and include those two pieces of Chesterfield with the 2 million from Tri-Cities and just federalize the whole chunk.
Got
Liz,
it.
that's correct. And I think we're continuing with the process on the northern segment to leave that non-federal.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you, Ron, for your hard work in getting that money. You know,
Just
we
let you
could
know,
have-
Barb, I missed that meeting, so I did go back and look at it and saw the thumbs up from Shane Mann and such on it. And thank you, Barb, for those kind words.
Yeah, you did a great job.
And Barb, for point of clarification, there is no such thing as a dinky federal aid project. They all become very big very quickly.
Very true.
All right, any other updates from the group on any efforts in their respective jurisdiction? All right. Shane, Mark, or Liz, do y'all have any further items?
Nothing further from me.
All right, Chet, anything else you need from the group?
Thanks.
All right, couple wrap up items. So I guess this is for VDOT. The meeting scheduled for early May. Oh, look, there's Larry Hagan making a surprise guest appearance. So for the public meetings in May, do we know what the format and I guess details of those meetings are? Could we talk about that slightly?
Sure. Yeah, we're still kind of working it out, but the general it's going to be a not a formal presentation at the meeting. It'll be kind of like the last Ashland Petersburg Trail. We'll have some big visual graphics up, and we'll have stages or them set up around the room. And the idea is just for people to walk around and ask questions. We're considering, because we are going to do not an online version of public involvement, but we are putting all the visual graphics on the project website for VDOT's website. And there will be an email address that people can submit comments virtually. We're just not streaming the meeting virtually or doing a virtual presentation. If we decide to do a presentation, which we're still talking about that, we would have it outside the room and kind of running on a loop for people to watch the presentation first and then come walk through the room and see all the maps and graphics. And we would have that same presentation online. And they would start the same. The first meeting's May 3rd, so that would go live on the web May 3rd as well.
As y'all have additional information and details, could you send that out to this group,
Absolutely.
particularly the graphics. So
Yes.
everybody can be familiar with them and make sure there's no modifications needed.
Absolutely.
Can I ask a different question related to this all? Since we have these two packages being worked on, what sort of timetable are we going to need to have the design guidelines set for so that these projects are designed according to the design guidelines we want to adopt?
Mid-May, and that's what we're shooting for. We're closely coordinating those two efforts.
Barb?
Do you think there would be value in having a dry run with the localities ahead of the meeting? Just so we're all on the same page as far as answering questions?
I don't have an issue with that. We can do that, yeah.
Actually, really good suggestion, Barb.
Okay.
So basically, this group has a virtual dry run in some form. Is that what you're thinking, Barb?
Yeah, just get on a Zoom call and go through some anticipated questions that we might get from folks and take a look at the displays so we're familiar with the displays. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I would suggest we had Colonial Heights, Todd Thurpin
Yep.
and Reggie from Petersburg. That would then really complete the whole picture for all the localities.
Very well. Unfortunately, our next following working group meeting is scheduled for the 4th, which is the day after the first meeting. So we'll need to find a date in advance of that. So do we want to run this through as a following working group with the add-ons that Ron just mentioned, or do we want to schedule this through Liz through the district? I'm fine either way.
I'm fine either way. I mean, it sounds like, I'm trying to think of the timeline. We could move, could we move the CVTA work group meeting to before the public hearing? Is that feasible or no?
I think that's what Todd suggested,
Oh, okay.
but who would be the one to kind of schedule it?
Okay, so how about this? Todd, let me get back to the design build group here and trying to figure out drop dead date when we can have everything ready. And then could I reach out to you and try to coordinate that date?
Yes, and
Or
include
Chet?
Chad and Janice on that, so they
Yep.
can.
We would be more than happy to support VDOT scheduling the meeting.
We might also want to include Heather Barrar.
Right.
That's a good idea.
From Fowler.
Yeah, that'd be good too. Because down here, there'll also be questions about coordination between the Fall Line Trail and the ART.
Mhm.
Yep.
So Liz, you good on that at this point?
I'm good. Yes. Thank you.
All right. Any other items to discuss? Okay, seeing no hands raised, I guess we will, in addition to the meeting that I hear Liz is going to now help spearhead. We have our next meeting scheduled for May 4th, which I guess will be a nice debrief from the meeting the day before. And that one, the 3rd is at the Lewis Skinner, you said, Liz? And what's the date?
Yes, correct.
What's the date of the second meeting?
May 5th.
May 5th. Oh, okay, so yeah, that'll be fresh.
We'll have 3 days of Fall Line.
Yes.
And then we'll have a TAC meeting on the 6th, which will probably be some more debriefing on Fall Line.
Fall Line all week then. All right, any other items for the good of the order? All right, seeing none, we may adjourn. Thank you for everybody's time.